Welcome everyone to Home Office Hours Live with Vistaprint. Thank you so much for joining us today. If this is your first time joining us, Home Office Hours is a series of live discussions that we've put together on timely topics. We'll be featuring guest speakers and our very own Vistaprint team members. Our goal with this series is to provide you with education and advice for surviving these unprecedented times during the COVID-19 crisis. Today we have three members from our team here at Vistaprint. Arancha Muelas, Director of Brand Creative. Arancha, can you say hello?
Hello, Corey.
Hi, thank you for joining us. We also have Virginie Mignot, Manager of Brand Strategy. Can you say hello?
Hi everyone.
Thank you so much for being here. And we also have Rosaire Marcet, Art Director here at Vistaprint. Can you give us a hello?
Hello, hello all.
Thank you. So the team is here today to talk about branding in challenging times like these, and they've put together a presentation to demonstrate how you can use a step-by-step blueprint to define your brand, create your visual identity, and make updates. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. We'll take questions at the end of the session, but please feel free to submit them throughout the session. You can use your Q&A button at the bottom of the screen if you're joining us via Zoom. If you're joining us via Facebook Live, we will also be taking questions from there. They will be put into the Q&A in Zoom, so we will get to those as well. We'll also be sending the recording out after we wrap up. So let's get started here. I will turn it over to Arancha.
Great. Thank you, Corey, and thank you to everyone that's here today. I'm really very excited to be here and talk about branding, because branding is really one of my passions and my favorite topics. My other passion is to share my own experience, what I know, so this is the perfect setting. So the way we have organized this session today is we have structured it in three different areas. I will start first with more of the theory and introduce you to some basic branding concepts, and then Virginie and Rosaire will take you through more of the practical case using what we call the brand blueprint. So let's start with this big question. What is a brand? Usually in the live sessions that I host, when I ask this question, I first get a lot of blank faces, and then people start getting creative. They come up with very complex definitions, but the reality is that it's a lot more simple. And what I want to do in this first section is demystify brand and demystify branding. And also very important, branding or a brand is not for the big players. This is for anyone. It is for big and for small. If you have a small business owner, if you're a small business owner, you have a small business, you do have a brand, whether you know it or whether you don't know it. And it's, at the end, it is how you behave, it is your personality, how you show up, and mostly also how then customers perceive you. That is as simple as the three basics of branding. So as I was saying, branding is really who you are. A brand is who you are. It is the experience you deliver to your customers, and it's the way that your customers are gonna perceive you. So what is it that they associate you with? What is it they think of when they think about your business? Jeff Bezos, Amazon CEO, he always talks about brand as it is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. Now, if you think about this, this is very true, and a very simple way of explaining the concept, and it boils down to that idea. I want you to think about this based on what we just said. The way customers are going to react or interact with your brand or your business is going to be based on how you make them feel. It is so true. It's a very simple idea, but believe me, it's the secret for understanding what good branding is about. Print this slide, hanging on the wall, always keep it in mind. And before you take any decision, just take a minute to think about how I want my customer to feel about this, about what am I doing, about what is the experience, not so much about what you think it is, but what is it that they're really going to feel about that. So just to summarize these first concepts and idea, remember, the brand is the promise of an experience to your customers. Now, how do we give shape to this experience? How we make it real? What are the fundamentals of branding? If you go online and you Google branding, you get more than 1 million different results. And this is very confusing. The terminology is endless. There is ideas like brand equity, brand proposition, brand purpose. It's very confusing. And what I try to do today is boil it down to the simple ideas. You don't need to do a master's in branding. What you need to know is what are the basic that, again, doesn't matter if you're a big brand or a small brand, you need to apply in order to be successful. And trust me, if you focus on these 3 ideas and apply them on your everyday, you will succeed. And you will be able to build a very strong brand. So what are these ideas, these concepts? Is be relevant, build trust, and offer a unique experience. And what does be relevant mean? It's probably very simple if you think about that, and it makes a lot of sense. We just don't take the time to think about it this way. It's knowing your customer needs better than anyone else, knowing what is the ecosystem, what is your ecosystem, and understand what is it that you offer that is aligned with what they need. Sorry, can you go back to the previous slide? There, thanks. We'll jump into that in a minute, into the details. The second idea is about building trust. And this is about being there for them, being transparent, solve for any issues or challenges they have, make them feel that you truly care and they're being taken care of. That's all what we want as customers. And the third is offer a unique experience. Now, this is really your opportunity to differentiate yourself from the competition. This is the way to win customers. What is so unique to you, to your service, to your products that they cannot get anywhere else? And if you make this clear, you will have customers coming back to you. Okay, so now, yes, we can move to the next slide. So let's look at how we apply these 3 ideas into what's going on right now in the world of pandemic. So we talked about being relevant to the moment, and being relevant today, what does that mean? I'm sure that you haven't been impacted like so many others. So it's really understanding what is new for your business during this uncertain time. What is it really that your customers are experiencing during this pandemic? Have the needs changed? What do they need to know? And continue monitoring the changing environment to be able to adapt and stay connected. But also, I would say, start thinking about what customers will need when the things go back to normal, because that will give you an advantage versus others. If we think about building trust, next slide, please. It's now more than ever, it's about the opportunity to connect with customers in a meaningful way. Keep them informed, open new communication channels. If definitely online, it's a space where you want to be, but connect with them, ask them how they're feeling, and tell them also how you are feeling and how you're being impacted. How can you make inconveniences such as shipping delays, etc., make them right for customers? They're going to understand. You just need to explain them and inform them about the actions that you're taking also to keep them safe. For example, if you have a shop. At the end, it's about really showing that you truly care by adapting your overall messaging to be fully transparent, supportive, and empathetic. And next slide, please. Now, offering a unique experience. Now, this is the one where I see it has the most of opportunity. We were saying, you know, what is it that defines you from the competition? Now, in these difficult moments, it's the opportunity to turn that challenge into an opportunity to really surprise and delight, deliver the unexpected, and go above and beyond. I was mentioning earlier, establish an online presence if you don't have that, because that's the way that we can better connect with everybody at the moment. Use the digital channels, the social channels, let them know that you are still there for them, even if they still cannot see you. Communicate any changes, if there are, to your shipping or ordering processes with transparency and reassurance, and make this information very prominent on your website. Offer alternative ways also of having them come back to you, like digital gift cards, or promote unique deals. And get creative, host live sessions like we're doing today, and share your knowledge, your experience. Also create new content. Now is really the time at the end to show that you're there for them, to anticipate their needs and keep them informed and make sure that they get what they need. And it's your opportunity to truly make a difference. Okay, next. Thanks. So what I wanted to do, these are some ideas, is just show you some examples of what other small business owners are doing. These are some Instagram posts that I gather, and I loved all of them. On the top left, you see Proud Mary. It's a restaurant, and what they're doing is offering their signature dish as a kit. So you can actually take it home, the basic ingredients, and they provide you the instructions to give it the final touch at home. The one next to it, Face Food, one of our favorite small business owners, they are offering what I said before is gift cards as an incentive to support them during the pandemic. K-Ton Pilates to the right, they're offering virtual training classes. I'm seeing a lot of these like yoga and Pilates, and it's working well. So it's, reinventing yourself and how you're, again, relevant and build trust, as well as offering that unique experience. On the bottom left, Hometown Brew, I found this fascinating. They're actually using their distilling system to create hand sanitizer. Follow Your Nose, a pet company, they're being fully transparent and not waiting for their customers to come back to them in a different way if they don't need their service, but offering alternatives that they can use as a way to help them. And last, to the right, Bronx Beer Hall is actually including a homeschooling kit with the order of the beer, with the idea of, well, as you know, you can drink your beer while your kids are quiet and entertained. So again, these are just some few examples of brands or small business brands they're doing their branding very well. They are harnessing the moment, they're using the opportunity. And I hope this gives you some inspiration to think about what this means for you. So with these basic ideas, now we're gonna move into the second part of this webinar. And what we want to show you, again, in a very simple and digestible way, is how to use some of these principles discussed to define what is your blueprint. Your blueprint, it's a one-pager that will help you identify what is your value proposition. But I won't say more, I will let Virginie explain the details.
Thank you, Arancha, for putting this in the context of the current challenging times. Now we will go through the key and simple steps for creating a strong brand identity for your business. Rosa and myself are on hand to take you through the stages of identifying and then expressing your brand values. By the end of the session, you should leave with a clear idea of what your business stands for and how you can best position your offering across all your marketing touchpoints in the current times. I'll start with a quick introduction of the role of the branding. And then we will follow together the different stages of the brand blueprint, which will help you to define your brand as an input for the visual identity phase. A brand is not just a name or a logo. A brand is a promise to your customers. That is why it is so important to understand them. It's how you make the unique qualities of your business stand out from the competition. Therefore, you must know who your competitors are so that you can differentiate from them. And it is also important to define your brand to convey your vision related to your business objectives. And stay consistent in your communication so that your customers can easily recognize you and understand what you can do for them. The blueprint exercise will help you create an attractive and meaningful brand for your customers. So a good product, strategic thinking, and originality in expression are the tools to create successful communications that connect with your customers. Connect your customers with your brand, sorry. And this connection can be twofold, rational and emotional. The rational is linked to your offer quality and your point of differentiation in your local market, while the emotional is created through your brand personality, expressed across your visual identity and your tone of voice. In order not to start with a blank page, everything related to your brand identity, what you can see here is a guide to accompany you in the process. As Arancha said before, it's called the brand blueprint. If you never did this exercise, it is useful doing it now. It is never too late. And if you already define your brand, it might be helpful to review this exercise in the current context, as some parts of it may have evolved. Could be your customers, who may have different needs today, your competition, or even your own offer, as you may have pivoted your business. So this is how it looks like. On the left, your project data, and on the right, the components of your positioning. But to make this exercise easier, we will follow the different steps of the blueprint using a real small business example. Here, a pharmacy business named Eixample-Plau. It is in the city center, close to the park and river. Here you can see the photography from their window display and the interior of the shop. So we'll start with the left side of the blueprint, answering questions related to your project, starting with your business. So here you can see some questions. These are the ones that are going to help you to fulfill the blueprint. As an example, what made you decide to start your own business? Where did your initial idea come from? And if you had to give an elevator pitch, how would you describe your business? What is your long-term vision of your business? So if we go back to our example, the pharmacy, the business is mainly around health and medicine, but also natural therapy. As we said before, it is a neighborhood pharmacy. It's modern and fresh, so it's not the typical traditional pharmacy. And one of the purposes of their business was to share healthy advice with the community. Then your product. What do you offer? What makes your product unique? And where does it sit in terms of price, quality, or other important attributes? So in the case of the pharmacy, they mainly sell drugs, pills, and tablets, but also cosmetics, natural therapy products like essential oils diffuser, and they also offer diet treatments, and they offer follow-up in the pharmacy shop for those diet treatments. At the end of the day, they want to offer positive advice in a dynamic environment. The third pillar of your brand identity is your customers. Who is buying from you? What are the core values of your customers? What need do you fulfill for them? But also, what are they happy about? Or what do they complain about? So in the case of the pharmacy business, they are mainly sick people, but also adults taking care of themselves. They look for approachable and friendly treatment, and trust and health are important to them. And they're also locally focused, meaning they want to buy in their neighborhood. In general, it's a young neighborhood with a lot of couples with young children. And finally, your competition. Who are your competitors? What differentiates them from you? And what are the unique attributes of your business, and how do they benefit your customers? So again, in the case of the pharmacy, the competition is mainly large and small pharmacies, but also department stores. They have the luckiness that there are few pharmacies in the neighborhood, but they have other natural product offer in small shops. And it is the only place where people can get personal advice for a healthier life. So as the first step, you answer those questions by writing sentences, but then step by step, you're going to be able to extract the keywords. And these are the ones that you're going to plot in your blueprint on the left side as per this example. Then you get into your brand identity. And the first step is to write the positioning statement. For this, there is a formula. I know it can sound like a magic formula, and some people may be skeptical that this is applicable to their case. But I can promise you that having done that work for different types of businesses, small and big, but also different industries, it always works. So the formula is the company name, is the description of your business, whose attributes, your point of differentiations, enables your target audience to finally get a benefit. So coming back on our pharmacy, the positioning statement would sound like Eixample Blau is a small, modern pharmacy whose healthy natural therapy and diet advice enables young families in the neighborhood to take care of themselves in an approachable and trusting environment. So now that you have defined your positioning, you need to extract the essential elements of it, the essence of your brand, keeping it short and concise, focusing on the most important elements of your project to differentiate from other similar business. So in the case of the pharmacy, it would be summarized as approachable health support for all the family. Once you've defined your brand strategy, meaning your positioning statement and brand essence, it is all about balancing the different components. You will do this through the brand expression phase that my colleague Rosaire will now introduce. Now I hand it over to Rosaire.
Thank you, Virginie. So the brand expression is how you convey the blueprint into a visual and a tone of voice, which is how you speak to your customers. Defining this help you either to create a good brief for a designer or to be able to choose a good logo template to represent your brand. In this section, we will cover brand personality, benchmark, colors, typography, type of logo, the basic needs a logo have to cover, and the brand identity system. One of the main points that will help you create or choose a good visual brand expression is defining your company personality. You will need to define 3 words that describe your brand. These words can be things like energetic, friendly, formal, proactive. So if you have difficulties to find these words for your business, there is many surveys online that will help you finding these words. These 3 words then are added to the brand blueprint. In the case of the pharmacy, the words are approachable, natural, and modern. Approachable because they want to be a place easy to go to, a meeting point in the neighborhood where they get advice on health issues. Natural because even though they have regular medicines, they want to promote natural therapies and homeopathy. And modern because they are located in a neighborhood of new construction where young people are living and they want to fit in with the surroundings. Then you need to look for images that represent these 3 words. And these images will help you starting to visualize the style you want to go for. Another thing that is very useful is research on other businesses on your sector and how they look like. You can look for similar size business or a little bit bigger, or maybe some that offer different services than you. So you get a big picture on what colors they use in your sector, what kind of logos they have, how they implement the brand in their shops and their websites. And with that, you will be able to decide if you want to blend in or you want to stand out. The pharmacy owner that I was working with chose as inspiration Farmacia Sanchis and Farmacia Vejel. This gave me a clue on the direction we needed to take on design style and the colors. And talking about colors, color is a fundamental thing for recognition of brands and organizations. For example, if I say red, what is the brand that first comes to your mind? Probably would be Coca-Cola. A color can affect the way that people react when they first encounter your company. And that's why it's very important to understand the common association to colors. In Vistaprint website, in Ideas and Advice, we have an interesting article that can help you understanding what color reflect what idea. For the pharmacy, we choose as a principal colors a palette of greens and blues. Green having the connotation of nature, responsibility and sustainability, and blue conveying competence, trust and security. We also added pink as a secondary color, which represents femininity and beauty. All these colors worked very well if you think on the personality of the pharmacy that was approachable, natural, and modern. If we go to the next slide, please. We need to add the colors to the blueprint. And as you see, we added an acid point to all the colors that we chose previously to make them modern looking. Just as the color has a meaning for your brand, typography is equally powerful in representing the values and the tone of voice of your brand. Each kind of font has a different set of connotations that create a different representation of who you are and what you stand for as a brand. Sans serif fonts are modern, clean, simple. Serif fonts convey tradition, authority, and reliability. And script fonts are more friendly, creative, and personal. Black letter fonts are associated with Gothic era and have a darker feel. We, for the pharmacy, as we wanted to go for a modern look, we chose sans serif font. Also, if we go to the next slide, yeah, perfect. We need to add the fonts to the blueprint, and in your case, you might end up with a different font for your logo and communication text. The one that you first added to the blueprint, but in case it can be useful for an inspiration to choose your logo and or define the brief to the graphic designer. For the pharmacy, we choose Monad for the logo because it was a little bit architectonical typography, and the Cygnus for the body text, so the communication text, because it worked really well for us. Then you can also research in different logos that doesn't have anything to do with your company, but that reflects a little bit the same values. It is always it's always important to have in mind your business personality and the blueprint that you created. And then there are basically two kinds of logo. If we simplify things, there is the typographical logo, like the FedEx and Disney logo, or the logos that has a visual component and a typography component. You have to think on what it works best for your company, and then choose what is the way you want to go for. And then there is some basic things that you need your logo to cover. The logo needs to fulfill all your needs. It should be easy to add to all the materials you will use, from paper to clothing to a website. Needs to work well in different sizes, because you might need to a very big banner, or you might need to apply it in a small business card. Also, it needs to work well in black and white, because you never know what limitations of printing you can encounter. And also, it is good if it is dynamic, as all the elements from your identity create a system that can fulfill your present and future needs. And then in the case of the pharmacy, we choose to go for a visual plus a typography. And for the visual, we use a cross that is the typical element from the pharmacies, a little bit twisted. And in the middle, we created a space where we generated some icons that then help us to categorize different lines of products in the pharmacy. And then the system of elements, the use of colors, the fonts you choose, help you to be consistent across all the communication points with your customers, from your business cards to the social media. It can help you to have, for instance, for the social media, some templates that you can use consistently to communicate with your customers. And this gonna help you exposing your brand consistently and be remembered by your customers. And at the end, all these elements from your brand have to be added to the blueprint. The personality, words and pictures, the colors, and the typography. If they aren't the final ones, that's okay. The ones that inspire the choice you will make or the brief you will create, they have to be there. And at the end, when you have your final logo, you can add the final typography, colors, and logo type to the blueprint. And with that, I hand over to Arancha. She will do the closing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Roser. So yes, as you see, this is a very simple exercise that allows you to have a very clear understanding of what your brand is about, to always stay true to your center, to your essence, and know in which way you have to bring your brand alive. Be consistent as you develop your communications, your visuals, your creatives. Always refer back to this blueprint, and this will give you the guidance on where you need to stay. So what I want to do now is just close the exercise by referring back to the concepts that we touched initially about being relevant, build trust, and use the challenging times as an opportunity. So what would the pharmacy do in this pandemic crisis, and how they have used the blueprint to adjust, to refine, so they can connect better to their customers, to be more relevant, and offer that unique experience. So very quickly, you know, we've heard about their business, and one of the things that now it's important for them, because people are getting sick, because people did not support, is change their opening hours to be open 24 hours. So as part of their business, they're going to say, now we're always going to be open and reassuring. So slightly changing their business model. In terms of their product, well, we all know masks it's one of the hero products at the moment, gloves, vitamin, and all sorts of antiviral products. As we think about their customers, so one of the observations obviously is that they are worried. We are all worried. So it's important to reflect that because it will help you adjust the tone of voice as the way you talk to them. And finally, it's as we think about the competition, there is now, because of the circumstance, bigger competition online that they have to deal with as well. When it comes to the positioning statement, if we think about all these nuances that we have identified now, it doesn't necessarily have to change or adjust, because it's important that they stay true to who they are. However, we can slightly adjust the essence in terms of amplifying some of the attributes. So we're saying before they were approachable, now it's not just so approachable, it's that we're open for all. So it's a 24-hour health support, not just for families, but for anyone or for any situation. In terms of the brand expression, again, is what should be the tone now? Where do they want to over-index? Definitely it's about being caring, being empathetic, and being communicative. We're saying communication is key during this moment, so how can they be more in contact, more in touch? In terms of the rest of the visual expression, we know that online and website plays a big role. So it's just been reviewed to include an additional font that works very clear and simple and legible in an online environment. So this is the good, I think, 30-minute summary of some of the main brand ideas and concepts that we wanted to simplify, to share with you. I hope you find them useful. I hope that these are good tools that will help you. If you've never done this type of exercise, to use the time now, if you have the time to sit down and do it. But if you have done it, look at and rethink what it means for you, so that it really helps you win and succeed under this situation, on this pandemic crisis. So that's the story for today. And now I guess, Corey, we can open it up for questions.
Yes, thank you so much. So as Arancha said, we'll open it up for questions now. You can submit those using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you are in Zoom. But if you're joining us on Facebook, you can just put those into the comment area and we'll get those in the Zoom as well. So we'll start taking some of the questions that we have already. And Rosier, maybe you could take this first one for us. I don't have a good sense of color. Are there any tools out there that I can use to help me build my brand's palette?
Yes, sure. There is like one very useful tool that you can use from the pictures that you choose for defining your personality even. You can upload them onto a website that is palettegenerator.com or canva.com, and then it's going to generate a palette of colors for you. And I think this can be helpful. Also, you can choose a picture that you really like that convey the essence of your business, and this might be a helpful tool.
Great, thank you. So we have another question coming in from Facebook. Arancha, it would be great if you can take this one. Vistaprint, I'm going to do a business rebranding. Do you have a logo design service to create a new one?
Oh, we certainly do. So go online, we have our design services. There's different ways of how you can get that logo produced. We have an amazing design service team that can help you creating the logo that you need. So go and check our site and you'll get all the details.
Awesome, thank you. And we also have a question here about the blueprint template. One of the attendees is asking if we can send this template as a separate attachment so that they can work with the form. I'm happy to send that out to anybody who's on the webinar. Arancha, I will just collect that from you afterwards, and then we will email that out so that everybody has the template as well as the recording.
Of course.
Thank you. So our next question here, I think all of you can probably answer this, but Rosier, maybe let's start with you. I'm not a very creative person. Do you have suggestions where I can find some inspiration to create my brand's visual identity and specific elements like logos and fonts?
For me, a main source of inspiration, and sometimes I even create a board myself, is Pinterest. In Pinterest, you can search logos by sector, industry, even like by adjective. It's very resourceful. And then for fonts, there you can look at fonts, but you cannot download them. But if you are looking for free fonts, a good source is Google Fonts. They are amazing. And then that font, it's not bad. And then you can also search fonts like more sophisticated that are paid, like in Font or webs like that.
That's great, thank you. Definitely familiar with Pinterest myself, but I haven't used it for this particular purpose before, but it is a really great tool to search for things and get inspiration. We have another question here. Arancha, it would be great if you can start us with this one. Are there any rules for carrying the brand across websites, social media, and all other?
Well, I don't know if the roles specifically comes more from a brand perspective or from a creative execution, but I think in any case, if you go back and review the presentation, the discussion we just had, it gives you the clues. So it's when it comes into your brand positioning, when it comes into how you want to show up, remember, be relevant, build trust, and offer a unique experience. So when you think about the tone of voice, what you want to say, what do you want to convey to your customers, go back to that blueprint and understand what have you defined as your personality, what have you defined as your essence, and how these will show up. In terms of the practical aspects, I did mention that specifically on the site, you want to make sure that you use the right combination of colors that work good online, because not all online combinations work as good as in print. So just make sure that that looks right. The font I mentioned earlier. So it's more technical details, as I just said, but overall, I would just say is be clear about who you are. Go back to your blueprint. Think about what experience you want to provide to your customers and deliver on that.
Thank you. So really just knowing who you are as a brand and being consistent with that.
It is really as simple as that.
We have a building onto that question. Should we change or keep the same? I believe this is as between those different places that you might put your brand out. And would it not be boring if we repeated it in a different format? Would we lose identity if we are changing?
Well, that is a very good question, and I think it's almost the day-to-day conversation that you can have between brand and creative teams. So there's one thing that you have to think of and remember is consistency and repetition is key, specifically if you want your customers to identify you with something. I always say, let's try to personify a brand. Think about a brand, about a person, and think if that person was dressing differently every day, and behaving differently every day and expressing also with a different tone, what would you think of that person? You will not be very clear on what to expect, and what's going to happen the next day. So it's really about finding that fine balance of saying, where do you need to be consistent? Where do you want to maintain your visual identity that defines who you are? But then, I heard a little bit about, whether it becomes boring, is where can you delight and surprise? Where is that opportunity to adjust, to be more dynamic? Roser was talking about an opportunity to make your logo dynamic. This means maintaining the essence, how it can change, how it can take a different color, but still there's some core elements that you don't want to touch, that you want to lock them. So that's the most important part. From a visual or from a messaging perspective, define what is the must. You lock that down, you don't touch that, you stay consistent, and from there you can experiment and bring variations and also see how customers react. The key here, again, is not so much what you think, it's about how customers react to that. Ask them, see what is the reaction, measure whether there is a response or not a response, whether they keep coming back to you. It's just as important as doing this pre-work in advance.
That's so helpful, thank you. Our next question here, I have to admit, I don't think that the group has the answer to this one. So I'm going to point you to our inbox. The question is, I would like to be a Vistaprint affiliate, but it's been difficult to figure this out. Is there a place to sign up on your website? I would encourage you to send us an email at homeofficehours@vistaprint.com. I don't know the answer, but we will look to find that out for you. Our next question here, again, I think this will be another one where we follow up afterwards. One of the attendees has missed some of the aspects mentioned to formulate a positioning statement. Can we please send a list of this formula? Virginie, if you can send me that in an email, I will pass it along. Again, it would be great if the attendee can send an email to homeofficehours@vistaprint.com so that I can respond back to that with this positioning statement formula.
Sure, I'll send you this. I think we can add all these details in the blend blueprint. We can work on a template which will put those elements in it so that then people can work from that.
Perfect, thank you so much. And sticking with you for this next question, Virginie, actually. This question is, I have a logo, but I don't have a tagline or a slogan. Is that something that I should create?
So not necessarily. Having a tagline is not an obligation. As you can see in the market, not all brands have one. You can create one, maybe if you think that it is adding value to your brand name, help customers better understand what you offer them. For instance, in the case, the name of your business is quite abstract, not referring to something specific that you offer, then a tagline may be helpful and add value to your brand, but it's never an obligation.
Okay, very good to know, thank you. Let's see, our next question here. Arancha, would you be able to take this one? I've read about brand purpose, value proposition, brand promise, brand equity, and it's all very confusing. What would you say is the most important to focus on right now?
Yeah, I think I did refer to some of these terms during my initial introduction. It's true that the brand terminology can be very confusing. And that's what we try to do today, is simplify things. And if you have been following the presentation, what we're saying is define who you are, define what is your value proposition. From there, you can work on you will work on what is a promise. You will build brand equity. And then it's it's a parallel term where it's very focused on brands that want to have an impact in the bigger ecosystem. So if you're thinking about your brand, once you want to do more than just sell products and be able to impact your community, for example, then it's just as easy as pick that into the blueprint as we discussed. At the end, you will get a value proposition that is defining that brand purpose. So take the blueprint, focus on getting that value proposition out, and from there, everything is just easy.
Great, thank you. I would just like to do a time check here. We are coming up towards the end, so we'll take a couple more questions. Please submit those if you'd like us to answer them. We have one more right now. Virginie, would be great if you can answer this one. My small business is fairly new and I'm not yet sure what my brand really is. Is it okay that I've started with something that I know will evolve?
Yes, of course. Even big brands are evolving. I think when you look at Apple, for instance, and you look back in the history, how much of their brand has evolved. But what I would recommend you now is that now that we've shared with you that exercise, try to fulfill it. And this should help you to define your brand as it is today. And then you can fine-tune this once your business is more defined. But it is highly recommended that you start your business with a name and a visual element such as logo so that your customer can recognize you. And in addition, this will help create your assets through the different pieces of communication. So I'd say, of course, a brand can evolve over time, but before opening, make sure you have a name and something visual so that people can identify your business.
Great, thank you. Very helpful. So I don't see any additional questions coming in here. So I think we will wrap this up for today. Again, if you do have questions though, please email us, homeofficehours@vistaprint.com, and we'll send the recording out as well as the blueprint via email afterwards. We are going to be hosting these every Tuesday and Thursday on various topics. Next Tuesday is email marketing, so tune in for that. We also really want to hear from you about what you would like to hear for topics. So please be sure to fill out the survey at the end. We've got a really quick 2-question survey. Let us know what you'd like to hear us cover on this. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram to stay up to date on the episodes coming up. And you can absolutely comment there and let us know what you'd like to hear as well. You can also check out our Ideas and Advice Hub in the meantime and our Support Small Business Hub. We've got a lot of advice there as well that you can check out. So thank all 3 of you for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time. And thank you to the audience so much for your questions and your curiosity and tuning in with us during this time. This has been Home Office Hours Live, and we will talk with you soon.